Thank you for joining us on Syndicated Nightmares, where we take a deep dive into an episode of Freddy's Nightmares based on the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Today we are covering episode 3, season 1 of Killer Instinct, and that aired on October 23rd, 1988, written by Alan B. Urey and directed by Mick Garris. So this episode has Lori Petty in it.
Yay!
Yay! It was... and I really enjoyed this episode, and I want to say it might have been because of her, because, you know, she's such a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
So the storyline is a high school track star haunted by the recent death of her Olympic medalist mother is given her mother's magic crystal amulet, which brings to life her secret ambitions and extracts vengeance upon those who cause her pain. I mean, that's a kind of a great plot.
Yeah. And this was just a couple years, like 2-3 years before she broke out in like Point Break and League of Their Own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens a little later on in the episode, but I kind of want to bring it up now. We also have Robert Shea makes a cameo.
Yes. I had no idea he was going to be in it. And then he shows up as the priest. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, although I was kind of expecting it when I saw that he was a producer of it, because it's in the Nightmare on Elm Street handbook, basically, that if Robert Shea produces a movie, he has to be in it.
Right.
And, you know, he's in Nightmare 1, Nightmare 2.
Is he in the first one?
He is. Doesn't he play a teacher? Maybe?
I think that's 4.
That is 4. Okay,
yes.
So, but I want to say that he's in Nightmare 1. I should consult Thommy Hutson on this one, because he would know.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say
maybe
that he's
he
in
had
Nightmare
like a
1.
small uncredited role.
It's possible. Yeah, because I remember Wes Craven saying in one of his interviews that Robert Shea had to be in the film somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember how he was in it. So, but anyway, yeah, so Robert Shea is in it, and that's cool, kind of a wink and a nod to Nightmare fans who know that he just has to be in everything.
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay, so yeah, what did you think overall of, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, what was your initial reaction to the episode?
I thought it was fun. I guess, like, overall, I would say it's sort of reminiscent of an episode of Friday the 13th, the series, because those episodes were all about somebody getting a cursed object, and then, you know, horrible things ensue. So and this was that sort of template, that she gets the amulet trinket thing, and bad stuff happens. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. What did you think?
This was my favorite out of the 3 that I watched consecutively.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed this one. And it's upsetting that the person who wrote this really hasn't gone on to do anything else. They wrote Jigsaw Murders in 1989. And then after that, there's nothing that they're credited with. So I think that's a little disappointing, because I really enjoyed this.
Mm-hmm.
I did make a note on the characters, especially the coach at the beginning, just what an unsympathetic person she is.
I wrote that too.
Towards Lori Petty's character, her name is Chris in this, towards Chris losing her mother, and it's just like, really? You're just going to shake your head at her and shame her for not running as fast as her mom used to? That's just terrible.
Right. She said, I wrote down the line, you can inherit talent, but not guts.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just
right.
like, that you are a nasty human.
Yeah.
So, and then I noticed at the beginning, the shower scene. And maybe it's because of Carrie, because I've seen Carrie so many times, but whenever I see a shower scene in a movie, and this even happened with Mean Girls, I always think about Carrie, and I'm like, are they going to start throwing tampons at this poor woman? Like, what's going on?
Right. And then Freddy makes his appearance in the dirty towel bin. Which was
for no reason.
Right.
Other than like, oh, maybe we should put Freddy in here. Okay, well, yeah.
So yeah, watch out in that locker room.
Yeah. And the beginning when the credits are the beginning credits are playing, they just have this sequence of all the students walking through the hallway to establish that we are in a high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I just noticed how clumsy the majority of the students are, because they're like dropping things left and right in the hallway. And one kid has nunchucks in his locker.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
I did not notice that at all.
Was that a shout out to Rick Johnson in Nightmare 4? You know, was he like holding them for Rick while he was in the bathroom sleeping? Right. You know, like, what was that all about? Why do these high school students have nunchucks in their lockers?
I don't know. Was there a nunchuck craze in the late 80s?
Maybe Karate Kid was pretty big. You know, maybe.
And Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, Ninja Turtles. Yeah, I just couldn't imagine if there was like a mandatory or random locker search. Because my high school had that. Sometimes they would just do a random locker search. And if like the principal saw that you had nunchucks in your locker, like would they just be okay with that? Because technically, I mean, you can't do that much damage with nunchucks, right?
Well, I mean, even if you're not skilled with it, you could swing it at someone and hit them pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think they're as deadly as like a knife, or certainly not a gun, you know, but there weren't school shootings in the 80s. So I guess that wasn't a concern. I mean, were there ninja attacks in the 80s in high school?
I still think it would have, someone bringing it to school would have raised an eyebrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, maybe he had like karate class after school and he was just like, hey, I'm just going to bring my nunchucks. You know, that's a possibility.
Good point. Yeah. I need to go back and rewatch that because that part, because I totally missed that.
Yeah, it's like the first minute of the show, so you don't have to go too far into it. Yeah.
But I love, like, for some reason, 80s movie high schools. Like, they're just so fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wrote down another sexual harassing subplot, and I guess it's motive for the first kill. Mm-hmm. The cafeteria worker, that greasy guy carving ham in front of you, because apparently at Springwood High School you have a catered service or a butcher right in front of you. I
was thinking that, like, did you buy lunch at high school? Because I always brown bagged it.
I bought my lunch at high school, and we didn't have that type of fancy cater, like whatever that service was. Yeah. I went to St. Mary, not when LeBron was there. I graduated a year before he got there, but it was still a nice school. Like, we had luxuries, not like that though. Right. So the sexually harassing cafeteria worker who meets his demise by having his finger sawed off on the whatever, the meat shredder.
Logistically didn't make sense, because it's like, if you were going to cut your fingers in there, it would be the edges of your fingers, but there's like a clean slice of his fingers coming off. Yeah,
you're right, because he was slicing the ham in such like thin pieces that if he did cut himself, it just would have been the tips of his finger. So, and it probably would have been his middle finger first, because that's the longest finger. So I don't think it would have been all four of them in one slice.
Right.
No matter what that amulet tried to do.
And even if it was like this awful, disgusting person who's sexually harassing her, but she doesn't seem, she visualizes that it happens, and she's really not all that bothered by it.
Yeah, no, and so it kind of made me think, like, is he just known as I guess the sexual harasser of the school? I mean, I don't want to go so far.
He's pretty brazen, like.
Yeah, so I wonder if, like, has anyone else turned him in for this? Did the school have a talk with him? Is there a union involved, and that's why he hasn't been fired? Like, I have questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, so I guess, he sexually harasses poor Chris, Lori Petty's character, And in doing so, he slices all 4 of his fingers off. And I guess that's supposed to be considered retribution. And we move on to the next scene. And that's
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I really liked her boyfriend, Chris's boyfriend, David, as a character.
Yes.
Because every time they'd like have a conversation and he'd give advice, I'd be like, oh yeah, he's right. Like he's actually giving her good advice.
And I wrote that down too. And I can't find it because I realized it later in the episode that her boyfriend, he's just very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a very good boyfriend.
He is. Like when she's like, I got kicked off the track team. And he's like, well, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that just doesn't seem like the type of conversation that I would expect from a teenage boy. And he was supposed to be like Mr. Popularity too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He was pretty popular. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all the girls wanted him, but he really liked Chris. He really liked Lori Petty. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a very healthy relationship. And I'm kind of sad that it didn't progress into their college years.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah. So I can't remember. They didn't really give a backstory on the charm, did they, on that amulet?
It was her mother's.
Okay.
And her mother used to use it before each race. But
okay.
not,
and that's all that we really know about it, right?
We don't know how her mother got it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to assume that her mom got it at some like haunted magic shop, and
from Friday the 13th, the series.
From Friday the 13th, yeah, and that's how they have come together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wrote down in my notes because I wanted to check it factually because I'm terrible at history, horrible, and when Lori Petty and her boyfriend get in trouble for talking in class, they are assigned to write a 500-word essay on the Emancipation Proclamation. Mm-hmm. And the teacher then goes on to talk about what's ever going on in 1863. I was like, wait a minute, did that happen in 1863? And sure enough, yes, it did.
Oh.
So, way to be on top of things.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote this, Alan B. Urey, mm-hmm. You did your homework and you did it well. Mm-hmm. So, but maybe then I was like...
Maybe he didn't write any other screenplays because he became a historian after this.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. But then, like, I was like, well, 500-word essay, yeah, that's kind of a lot. It's technically like 2 pages typed because each page holds about 250 words. Mm-hmm. But back then in 1988, they didn't have the internet. So they actually had to like go to the library and pull out books and do research that way. So it's kind of a dick move on the teacher's part to expect them to write this 500-word essay and it was like due the next day. So they had like, 18 hours barely to write 500 words and do like research on it.
Good point. But then she killed him, so then they didn't have to.
Oh.
Right.
Why didn't I think about that in high school? Like, I have to write a report. I could just kill my teacher. Okay.
Right. Well, you didn't have the amulet.
Yeah.
But do you remember that ever being it's a punishment in movies, but like in real life, was that ever a punishment? Like you've misbehaved in class and got assigned an essay to write?
No, I was always just sent to detention because I figured like if I have to write a 500-word essay, that means that the teacher has to read a 500-word essay.
Point, yeah.
And like that was just more work for them. Mm-hmm. Although my biology teacher, my sophomore year, she would tell us like our end of the year project, we had to write like a 10-page paper on whatever we decided to research in biology. And it was a well-known fact that she did not read these papers at all. And it was so much of a well-known fact that a group of us actually started writing song lyrics in our report just to fill up the pages. Mm-hmm. And we all got like A+ on our report. So she definitely did not read whatever we did. Because I'm pretty sure I started writing Aerosmith lyrics in my biology report.
That's amazing.
Still got an A+ on it. Yeah. So thank you, Mrs. Kiankio, for not reading my biology report because I'm sure I would have failed it.
Well, she had other things to do, I guess.
Yeah, she did. She was the track coach. Coincidentally enough. Oh. How about that? Yeah, she was the track coach. So, yeah, she was too worried about people running, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then so they have to write this 500-word essay, and she kills him instead with cotton in his mouth. He's coughing up cotton because are they talking about slavery? Is that why that happens?
Yeah. Or you said, like, what crop did they use the slaves to harvest?
Yeah, that's it. And so he dies by coughing up cotton, and the students are just laughing at him.
I wrote that in my notes. Why are people laughing?
Yeah, and I guess for TV, that's kind of funny that the students are laughing. But in real life, what sociopaths are their classmates? Right. Like, they're just laughing at this person dying. They didn't call for help. They didn't run down to the principal's office. Nothing.
But I got the impression that the cotton was just like her vision, but in real life, he's just choking.
Oh.
Because then when they show him on the floor, there's no cotton around him.
Okay. But still.
Right.
Like, if your teacher just started, like, choking in the middle of class, I think someone would want to be the hero and give him the Heimlich. You know? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So the students are all sociopaths. And I am very curious about the budget for their school gym. Did you pick up on that?
No. Well, I was wondering why it's constantly Chris and that other girl racing each other, because normally in a track meet there are other schools there. But what did you notice about the gym?
Well, their school gym just had like all this amazing equipment, and I was like, where do they get the budget for this?
Like the treadmill and
and all the weight machines and stuff. Yeah. I just assumed that they were racing each other because they were trying to get best time to see which one was going to state.
That would make sense.
That's just a subplot I made up because sometimes you just have to do that in order to get through an episode. That does make sense. Yeah. So, yeah. And so, yeah, in my notes here, that's when I get to her boyfriend is very supportive.
And I didn't understand, I guess there could be all sorts of reasons, but there was the two boyfriends are talking to each other, and the other boyfriend is like, Nikki told me they're not allowed to have sex when they're before the big track meet. Oh, yeah. And the other boyfriend is like, what? That's not a thing. Like, so it was this whole, like, Nikki doesn't want to have sex with her boyfriend thing.
Yeah. I was kind of getting a little bit of a gay vibe from the other girl. What was her name?
From Nikki?
From Nikki. Okay. Yeah. I was getting a little gay vibe from her.
You think? I mean, she was hitting on David, but maybe that was just like she wanted to take Chris's boyfriend. She wasn't really interested in him.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah, she was just so jealous of Chris that she was like, I just want everything that you have. And maybe she wasn't ready to come out yet. And so she has this like hyper heteronormative way about her. And she's like, I'm just going to steal your boyfriend because I actually want you, Lori Petty. And, and if I can't have you, no one can have you.
That's really interesting. And I actually, even though Nikki was kind of a sociopath in the first half, I was like, why is she so mean? But then in the second half, I kind of felt sorry for her because she doesn't have any friends. She has nothing in her life but running. Like her parents aren't very nice. She's got a boyfriend that she doesn't really like. Like she's just a very unhappy person.
Yeah, and it's probably because she has internalized homophobia. So, yeah.
Right, like her parents have these like strict expectations of her and push her really hard, and they're not safe parents to come out to.
No, So, yeah, I think we just solved the mystery of why Nikki was so jealous of Chris. It was because she didn't know how to deal with her feelings for Chris, and because she hated herself for loving differently, she just, was going on a killing spree.
Right, and the whole, like, killing Chris, that was like a gay panic thing. That she couldn't deal with her feelings for her. Yeah.
Wow. Look what we just uncovered.
Right. Good job, Alan B. Urey.
Yeah. Great job, Alan. I'm going to find you on Facebook and I'm going to ask you, sir, did you mean to put this in? Because maybe they were paying tribute to the homosexual context in Nightmare 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He's like, I'm gonna switch it up, and this is gonna be a lesbian story.
Yeah. Wait, wow, what a progressive writer you are, Alan Urie.
Yes.
Good for you. Okay. So we have towards the middle of the episode the plot twist where Nikki has stolen the amulet from Chris, but we don't know it before they go and do their run. And so Nikki has stolen the amulet from Chris, and Chris gets decapitated by the finish line string, whatever that official name is. I have no idea. I didn't run track. So she gets decapitated by a string. By I think
like
party streamer.
Like the cotton, like the head coming off is in a nightmare vision, but then it really looks happen. Like she, in real life, she falls and breaks her neck.
Mm-hmm. Does that happen if you fall and break your neck? You know,
I think you'd have to fall on something or.
Yeah, because that doesn't make sense, because when you fall, it's automatic that you put your hands out to catch yourself. It's not like, oh, I'm falling, I'm just gonna stick my chin out real far and see how this goes. Right.
And I think she was like on her back, or if you're running forward, how do you fall on your back?
I don't know. Maybe, it would have made sense that they're like, she twisted her ankle and then her head fell off.
Fell off. Like the bird in Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Like, well, Alan B. Urie, you really had something with the gay thing here, but this whole decapitation, broken neck thing, that's questionable.
The fingers cutting off don't make sense. The decapitation doesn't make sense. But I did love it's like a slow motion shot of like the body stumbling and the head falling through the air, or flying through the air, and someone says, "Somebody get a doctor." I really liked that line.
Yeah. Yeah, this truly was it was my favorite episode out of the three that I watched, and for so many reasons.
Yeah.
But so now we're on the Robert Shea cameo. This is when he comes about. I don't remember what he played in it. Oh, he was the minister at Chris's
funeral.
The funeral. Yeah. And so he got to say a few nice words about her, and then the story took a twist from there, and we saw it from Nikki's point of view, how she was running with the amulet. And you will know this because, not joking, or kind of joking, but since you are the nightmare expert, and you are also an expert on this location, I felt like they filmed some of this at Weston Hills.
Oh, really?
You don't think?
On the UCLA campus?
Yeah.
Oh, like what parts?
It was after the funeral, when Nikki was walking, they were like showing campus, and it looked like it was that Weston Hills outside hallway thing.
Oh, no.
So maybe watch it again and look for it.
Yeah,
I thought for sure that was it. Maybe all brick walls look the same to me in the nightmare world. Just like everybody's outside Weston Hills. What? So.
But I did notice the high school, because like in the first episode when it's the Springfield courthouse, and I was like, was that the high school? And then the high school in this episode, it was totally the same building that they used in the first one for the court.
Oh yeah. So. Yeah, okay, so maybe it's a Nightmare 3 campus. I don't know. But in this episode, they did not mention the actual street of Elm Street. Like, that just wasn't in there at all. So I don't know if certain words are copyrighted or they weren't allowed to say certain words for whatever reason. Because they never said Freddy Krueger except for in the pilot episode. And they never say Elm Street. They say Springwood. I don't know if that's copyrighted, but just certain words they just seem to like purposely not say.
It's weird because I would think like because other franchises, like the rights have bounced around, but Nightmare on Elm Street, it seems like it's been pretty consistent, like with one studio owning everything.
Yeah. Well, it went from New Line and then to Warner Brothers, right?
Right. Warner Brothers took over New Line.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's always stayed there. And then who had Friday the 13th? Paramount.
It started at Paramount and then went to New Line.
Went to New Line, and then is Platinum Dunes in the mix somewhere? Or
I'm not even sure how that works. Is Platinum Dunes under the Warner Brothers umbrella?
Probably.
Or are they on their own? And I also know that when Friday the 13th moved over, that New Line couldn't use the title Friday the 13th, so that's why the New Line ones are like Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Look at you. Friday the 13th expert.
Watch those a lot too. And then the remake, with the one that came out in 2009 was a co-production with Paramount, I think.
Oh, and so that's why they were able to use Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or something like that.
We'll sit down and talk about the Victor Miller lawsuit.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Yeah, because as a writer, I'm kind of seeing it from his point of view, but I also understand why the fans are upset. And when I say I, as a writer, I am not comparing myself to his level of writing or to his fame or anything. I'm just, saying because I like to write, so I understand what it's like, what it would be like to be taken for granted and, kind of... be taken advantage of with writing and not having what was owed to me. But whatever. Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Elm Street. Yeah, so you mentioned earlier how Nikki's parents are just terrible, awful people. And in my notes, I kind of touched upon that where I said that they think that their daughter is on drugs, but they are worried about their dinner party.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're at this dinner party with Nikki and her parents have some friends over. And Nikki is acting erratic because everyone she knows is dead now. And she has this amulet that gives her all the power in the world. And her parents think that she is on drugs and are shaming her for being on drugs because of what their friends would think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, okay. I mean, your daughter isn't on drugs, but if she is, I could kind of see why.
Right. Yeah. Why wouldn't she be with all that she has to deal with? It reminded me of Greta's mom in Nightmare 5.
Yes.
Even though this was before Nightmare 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I had that thought too. Like, oh, maybe this is kind of where they got the character Greta from. Maybe they pulled from this episode because there are a lot of similarities from Greta and Nikki, not so much the gay undertone because Nikki's gay, but Greta, I didn't get a gay vibe from Greta during the series. I know Mark was really into her, and she just kind of seemed like too focused on her career to worry about boys. But I never got like a gay vibe from her.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. Yeah. And
Tracy
we didn't really.
Nightmare 6, however, I did.
Who?
Tracy and Nightmare. Tracy?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah, totally. We'll talk about that later, too. But anyway, yeah. So Greta...
My favorite line of this entire episode is when Nikki comes home and sees to the dinner party and sees zombie Lori Petty and, runs upstairs and the dad runs after her and Nikki says, "What is she doing here?" And the dad assumes she's talking about this, upper class woman at the dinner party. And he says, "That's the mayor's wife's problem, not yours."
I know. Like, what?
Such absolutely. A bizarre thing to say.
Yeah. Like, well, okay. Well, I guess we know how you feel about marriage, sir. Yeah. And I like, you just mentioned zombie Lori Petty. I like how as the show progresses, so does Chris's decomposing.
Yes.
Like she gets more and more zombified. And I really liked that.
That was great. Although, like, some of the later scenes, I was like, is that Lori Petty or is that a different actress in the makeup? because
it looked like a different actress because like her chin was too round or something.
Yeah.
It just didn't look like her.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they threw that in. Maybe Lori Petty was off filming Point Break or something, and she couldn't make it that day. And so they're like, oh, let's just get Sally over there. Sally,
right. She's going to be heavily made up anyway. Nobody's going to notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I liked when Nikki was looking around her room at all the trophies that she's won, and then she zooms in on the trophy that she won the day that Lori Petty is decapitated or breaks her neck. And I kind of thought, would you really get the trophy if someone died at the race? Like,
that's true.
how would that ending ceremony go? Like, well, someone was supposed to be standing next to you, but they're dead. Here's a trophy.
Yeah. But then also that then they couldn't have been just, running to see who was going to go to state or racing each other to see who was going to go to state if there was a trophy involved in that race. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. So I wonder why they were racing each other. Maybe it was just for the school record. It was like, some weird thing to see who the best and fastest runner of Springwood High is.
Yeah, that's hilarious that
I don't know.
she got the trophy after the other person died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess people could be like, oh, you only won that race because Chris's head fell off or because Chris broke her neck. Like I would kind of be like, I don't want this trophy. I don't feel like I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how this episode ended.
It ends with David, the nice guy, climbs into her window. Mm-hmm. Or she's walking home from practice, and then zombie Chris is chasing her home. She goes into her room. David comes in, and then she ends up hitting him with the trophy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I guess he turns into a monster and she hits him with the trophy. Now I'm like getting it confused, but she thinks she's killing David, but she actually killed her boyfriend.
Her boyfriend. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. And then it just ends there, right? Like we don't see her being sent to jail or the loony bin or anything.
Right.
Okay.
So David, like the nice guy who gave good advice, I mean, he's going to come out of this pretty unscathed. Like, I mean, his girlfriend died and that's tragic, but he's, he can have a decent life going forward.
Yeah, I think so. And he really seemed to love Chris. And so I'm upset for him on that aspect. But I think once he gets to college, hopefully he goes somewhere out of state, somewhere far away from Springwood.
Yeah.
And that he'll be able to rebuild his life, and he'll just, he'll get a invite to his 20-year high school reunion, and he'll be like, you know what? I'm just not going to go to that. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to pass. Right. And I think everyone will understand why.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, when I was looking him up on IMDb, I remembered him from 90210. He was on one of the later seasons as a love interest for Valerie, Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Oh, yeah.
And it was sort of not quite the same, but he was like an old friend from Buffalo, and he comes there and she gets him a job at the Peach Pit, and you think he's like the sketchy guy who's going to do something terrible, and then he doesn't. He actually ends up being nice.
Well, you know what's funny? I'm looking at his IMDb page right now. He's also credited in Tank Girl.
Oh, really?
As Trooper number 1. So obviously Lori Petty didn't have that much pull, but she did, maybe she had something to do with him getting on there. So
yeah, I bet she was like, your character was so nice. I would just love to have you back.
Mm-hmm. And maybe they were like friends in real life or something, or who knows? Like there was definitely like a friendship chemistry between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So overall, what did you think of the episode?
I thought it was fun. It's not, I mean, it's not really Freddy-ish. He's barely in it. Mm-hmm. And the couple of quips he has don't really make any sense. But as a standalone thing, I think it was pretty good. Probably the best of the first 3. I agree.
Yeah.
What did you think? Well, you liked it.
I really, really liked it. And if all the episodes were as good as this, I think it wouldn't have mattered that Freddy wasn't in the episodes, because they were so it was just such a good standalone anyway. Yeah, I would have, even though I really disliked the second episode, if I was watching these in the 80s and I saw this episode, I would say, yeah, I'm definitely going to tune in next week. It's worth my time now. So yeah, I was really, really happy with it. And Alan B. Urey, you did a great job.
He did.
And I hope you continue to write other things, because the world needs writers like you.
Yeah.
Except
maybe.
don't write any death scenes.
Right. Your logistics are way off.
Yeah. And that's okay. It's a learning process.
Yeah. Well, maybe he writes novels or something like that.
That's true. I'll do a more extensive search on him rather than just IMDb. We'll see where else he ended up. He's been up to. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap. Thank you everyone so much for listening. And please come back next week when we talk about Season 1, Episode 4, Freddy's Tricks and Treats, in which Freddy Krueger faces off against Lieutenant Olivia Benson from the New York Special Victims Unit.